This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Check the link in the description for up to 2 free months of valuable education. Hey folks, today we're going to talk about the most important invention of the 20th century. Despite it being small in size, it's incredible how much of an impact it's had on our daily lives. I am, of course, talking about the birth control pill. Why is this drug the most important invention and not the transistor, nuclear power, or the Furby? Well, the pill has had a massive impact on almost every aspect of our lives. Even reactionary opinion haver Jordan Peterson has recognized its importance. He's on the record claiming it destroyed Western civilization. Oh, Jordan, I know we're 14 minutes and 59 seconds into your 15 minutes of fame, but I still get amused every time you have a public meltdown over any slight social progress made since the Victorian age. I do happen to agree with this particular Galaxy Brain take, though, not the part about women experiencing depression by denying their natural destiny as baby makers, but the scope of the pill's effects on humanity is tremendous. It sparked a sexual revolution and completely redefined women's roles in the 20th century. Birth control and abortion have been part of the human experience for millennia. Some experts suspect there's a condom in this ancient cave painting. I don't want to get into all the old examples of birth control over the years because others have already done that. I'll even put a link in the description with a playlist of them, but suffice it to say, nearly every society in history has practiced birth control and abortion. Whether it be lead mercury cocktails, crocodile dung, or weasel testicles, birth control techniques have spread around throughout history, especially among the half of the population most affected by childbirth. Ah yes, women. Generations of women have passed down the wisdom of birth control and abortion techniques. Often, older women in a community, maybe an old aunt or the local midwife, took up the role of helping women with family planning or the difficulties of pregnancy and childbirth. But like all areas women exercise autonomy over, men showed up on the scene, and the expected happened. See this video for when men pushed women out of the beer business for the similar crime of practicing autonomy over something. In 1484, extreme woman understander Pope Innocent VIII decreed that evil people who would slay infants in their mother's womb and prevent women from conceiving needed to be dealt with. Those people, Pope Innocent VIII called witches. Again? Really? What's with all the men thinking that women who practice any form of autonomy in history are witches? Yes, witches. The medieval and early Christian fave for when uppity women need controlling. It also happened when the Pope decided enough was enough with all this birth control business. Lots of women who spent their lives as healers wound up labeled literal cohorts of Satan. Many abandoned their practices, if they survived at all. I'm not here to verify whether the abortion or birth control techniques that women employed in this period worked. That's still up for debate, but they did know a lot, which went back millennia. And to be honest, we don't even know how much knowledge we lost. Also, it's not like the dudes were doing too great in this period either. Hey, completely unrelated, but did you know that while these irrational, chaotic women were experimenting with medicinal herbs, the logical, penis-having experts were still practicing medicine derived from Galen? You know, Galen, the 2nd century Greek man who claimed that all illness comes from an imbalance of your blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Why did we have 2 colors of bile? No one knows. Anyways, these ideas went mostly unchanged for more than 1500 years. Obviously, men are the logical agents of order and reason. So, as you can see, the Christian opposition to birth control is actually pretty recent. Until, shockingly, not that long ago, people in Europe thought babies were actually kind of evil. They believed babies hadn't yet done enough Christianing to scrub off all that original sin. But even with this opposition, that's not to say birth control disappeared. As anyone will tell you, making something illegal doesn't make it go away, it drives it underground. So just a story, back when I was in grad school, I was a teaching assistant for a US survey course. And every single year we would cover advertising in the 1920s. And I would always look at this ad here, show it to the class, and pause and really get them to think about it. This is an ad for Lysol. And the students really had no clue what it was about. They thought it was actually very confusing and perplexing. Books like this one were common and passed down methods of birth control and abortion in an age when it was a crime. Lysol was often used in birth control, and they knew it. Ads such as this one tried to use this terrible set of circumstances to sell their product. It's also an example of how things that were illegal weren't necessarily vigorously enforced. Things people would have freaked out about, such as birth control, abortion, or even homosexuality, weren't actively hunted. They were sort of left to live behind closed doors. In fact, although homosexuality was illegal in the 1920s, a community thrived while a lot of people looked the other way. You can watch this little video here for that story. Many of these methods of birth control that women passed along to other women, such as Lysol, weren't necessarily safe. Women performed these procedures at home with products that weren't necessarily designed for this purpose. So, a lot of women died. And if women are willing to make these kind of risks for just a little bit of family planning, things must be dire. And that is why birth control movements rose around the same time as first wave feminists. First wave is a bit of a misnomer because the struggle for women's liberation actually goes a lot earlier.
Well, actually...
What the hell?
Yeah, Tristan, I'm gonna stop you right there. You see, while the feminist waves don't describe all gender equality fights, it's a pretty useful way to understand feminism. It went through 4 distinct phases, or waves as they're called.
Well, I'll be damned. If only there was a video released at the same day and time as this one that could explain this all to me.
Well,
too bad there isn't one located down in the description or thumb or anything like that in order to do that. Such a shame, really. Anyways, let's get back on track. Alongside famous suffragettes such as Susan B. Anthony and Jane Addams were activists such as Margaret Sanger. She and others made family planning and birth control their activism. Yes, I know Margaret Sanger had some crappy opinions about eugenics. Peter Coffin discusses it here, but that doesn't write off the importance of her work on birth control. Sanger began the American Birth Control League, the forerunner to Planned Parenthood. She opened the first birth control clinic in the US in 1916. Sanger and other brave women distributed illegal manuals on birth control methods. Often, they'd get shut down and arrested for it. This was one of the many causes taken up by my favorite historical figure, Emma Goldman. I want to make her own video, so I won't delve into her story too much here, but indeed, she was one of the baddest of asses. During the First World War, venereal disease was rampant amongst the troops. The government couldn't help but institute a campaign to prevent it. This program changed the language around contraception and made it a public health issue. Sanger opened a second birth control clinic in 1923, and this time there were no arrests. Times were changing. Yet another example of how the First World War destroyed the miserable Victorian period. In America and around the globe, contraception laws began to weaken. By the 40s, the US got Planned Parenthood, which it still has to this day. For now. This is an example of why anyone tells you that things are just always getting better, Steven Pinker, are kind of full of it. C.S. Lewis actually called it chronological snobbery. In the 40s and 50s, Planned Parenthood funded a lot of scientific research to make birth control and abortion more effective and safe. Margaret Sanger's friend Catherine Dexter McCormick funded research into an oral contraceptive. She was a biologist and the second woman to graduate from MIT, so she knew what she was doing. The researchers she funded were scientists Gregory Pincus and Chin-Chua Chang. They planned to create an oral contraceptive using synthetic progesterone hormones. The idea came from the progestin within a wild yam women in Mexico took as a contraceptive, one part of that lady-to-lady tradition I mentioned earlier. Now, the clinical trials for the pill were super problematic. Informed consent wasn't a thing back then. Nonetheless, the pill worked. In 1957, the FDA approved it as a way to regulate periods, and 2 years later, 500,000 women were using it for that purpose. The no baby thing was just a nice side effect, I guess. The FDA eventually allowed it as a contraceptive, but only for married women. By 1965, 1 in 4 women under 45 were using it. Once unmarried women got access to it, it sparked a revolution. Finally, we had birth control. Something women had been doing in many different ways, but safe. If you took the pill at the same time every day, it was 100% effective. For the first time in history, sex and procreation decoupled. Women were no longer controlled by reproduction. They could start families when they wanted to and have families a size that worked for them. The period following widespread availability of the pill is called the sexual revolution. Freed from reproduction, the mores and taboos about sex began to shift. They could explore their sexuality in a way not afforded to many women before. Without the destiny of procreation, women could also access higher education easier. With education and control over their lives, a new feminist movement was born. Pardon the pun. The women's liberation movement, or second wave feminism, challenged gender inequality in schools, workplaces, and culture. The work of these women led to legalizing abortion in many countries too. Furthermore, second wave feminists worked to get more women into workplaces. Life for 50% of the population got better, and arguably life for 100%. We're nowhere close to where we need to be, but this was a period of a lot of advancements. Hey friends, I want to keep putting out stories from history like this, but talking about gender and women in general doesn't really bring out big audiences. I also enjoy luxuries like paying rent and eating food, so I'm going to take a moment to talk about this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is a learning community with thousands of classes to improve your marketable skills. Since the last video I did with Skillshare, I've learned quite a bit. Premium membership gets you unlimited access to high-quality classes from experts working in their fields. Subjects range all over the place. Skillshare has tons of courses that have made me a better filmmaker. That Daniel Scott course I mentioned did a lot to develop my skills. It turns out he's got courses on all the Adobe products. I've also taken classes on storytelling from award-winning authors, essay writing, and even an animation course from the team that make Kurzgesagt. It's also pretty light on the pocketbook, $10 a month. Minuscule compared to many college courses. It's even cheaper than other websites doing the same thing. If you want to check it out, Skillshare has given me a promo link. The first 500 people who sign up via this link, which you can find in the description, get 2 free months. You get to try the service for free before making a commitment. And when you sign up, you help me tremendously. Thank you, Skillshare, for helping me give attention to histories that often get overlooked. Like this one. So, in his own weird way, I hate to say it, but Jordan Peterson was right. The pill did upend Western civilization by freeing women to have families on their own terms and free them to explore more areas of their lives. Things like education and careers. Sometimes he has a habit of saying things that happen that are good, but in a tone that he expects you to be outraged about it. He's not alone, by the way. The Catholic Church still opposes birth control. Reactionaries backlash against every tiny victory women take for themselves along the way. Men called them witches, opposed their right to vote, blocked their right to choose, and even harassed them for doing anything with video games? JP must be tearing out his hair knowing that centuries, even millennia of patriarchal controls are fading away. It must be sad to freak out about other people bettering their lives. The story of the pill is one history textbooks tend to overlook. At Step Back, I try to look at who's writing the history books and find out what interests they have that put things in or leave them out. We often hear that microchips or nuclear power, those are the big inventions of the 20th century, and no doubt these are extremely important inventions, but for some reason the pill just doesn't get a place alongside them. For such a simple development, it's changed economies and the lives of more than half of us. We need to pause and give thanks for such an undersung technology. I made this video as a collaboration with Cypher, the Cynical Historian. If you check out his channel, you'll find his video about the waves of feminism I touched on but didn't get into. You should go over there and give it a watch. You won't regret it. This is, of course, after you subscribe to watch more Step Back.